Good morning, humans. On today's cooking adventure, on a day when it is 65 degrees in my house because I don't know how to work this stupid thermostat, we're going to heat up my house with the oven to 350 degrees because that's how cold I am. So today, on this lovely 11 o'clock morning, we gonna be making biscuits for breakfast. So, according to the recipe, it says if you have a static oven, you want to set your oven to 375. If you have a convection oven, it's 350. I don't know what the difference is, so I'm gonna put it on 350. If I have to leave them in for a couple extra minutes, then I'll just leave them in for a couple of extra minutes. So 350 for 13 to 15 minutes. These biscuits are going to be dairy-free and hopefully reach boyfriend's approval because being lactose intolerant, that is one of the most dear things that he misses. Alright, so first we're going to mix our dry ingredients. And so we need 2 cups of all-purpose flour. We need 2 teaspoons of baking powder, a half teaspoon of baking soda, 1 teaspoon of coarse sea salt, and that's it for our dry ingredients. So, 2 cups of flour. Alright, and then we need 2 teaspoons of baking powder. There's 1. There's 2. And then we also need a half teaspoon of baking soda. Now, here's part where I kind of blubbed up. I already turned on the oven, got everything started when I realized I did not have any baking soda. So, I looked up some substitutions for baking soda, and what it told me was for every 1 teaspoon of baking soda, you need to put 3 teaspoons of baking powder. So, if this calls for a half teaspoon of baking soda, then I will need to put 1.5 teaspoons of baking powder. The only thing being is that it might turn out a little bit bitter. So, let's hope I don't mess up these biscuits. Alright, so 1 more teaspoon and a half of the baking powder. Alright, next I need a teaspoon of coarse sea salt, which luckily we have gathered on our ventures to the world market on Ponce de Leon up here in Atlanta. And then next, that's all of the dry ingredients. Alright, on to the wet. Oh wait, I've got to whisk these together, so. Alright, on to the wet. Alright, so we need a 1/4 cup of milk. Alright. And a half cup of milk. And a 1/4 teaspoon of the vinegar into the milk. And that will actually turn this into buttermilk. So let me find that 1/4 teaspoon. That's a half. That's a 1/4. 1/4 teaspoon of vinegar. Alright, so I'm going to let that sit for a second. Alright, so now you want to take 4 tablespoons of butter. Hush, dog! And cut it into the... Oh my god! Go lay down. Lord have mercy. Alright, so 4 tablespoons of butter. And with the 4 tablespoons, I know that 8 tablespoons of butter is a stick. So you want to take a half stick of butter. Anytime I have ever cut butter into flour, it needs to be cold. So this is fresh out of the fridge. And you take a little piece. Now if you have a butter cutter thing, then go ahead. But otherwise, 2 knives will work. And you just, exactly what it sounds like, cut it into the butter. And you do that with all of your 4 cups. Alright, so now we add our wet ingredients to our dry ingredients. We need a half teaspoon of apple cider vinegar, separate from what we did earlier, making the little buttermilk in the cup. Alright, and then we put in the soy buttermilk that we made earlier in here. And then we also put in a 1/4 cup of milk on top of that. Alright, and then a cup of yogurt or sour cream. Now I have Silk dairy-free yogurt, and so that's what I'll be using. Alrighty, and then once everything is together, you mix it together with a fork. And you want it to come out kind of like rough cornmeal. You can put it into a food processor if you so desire. But since mine is put away and I don't remember where exactly I put it, I'm just going to do everything by hand like I'm so used to. So we'll come back when this is ready to go. Alright, I think I'm at that point. So let's start laying it out. So here's the fun part where we get to get messy. Alright, so you want to lay out some flour on your workspace. I probably should have wiped the counter down first because there's some milk or something there. Alright, so we're going to keep that out. And then you take your biscuit batter. What do you see, Smokey? I know! I'm such a neglectful, unloving mommy who won't let you out. Alright, so you take your biscuit batter. Probably should have. And you want to press it out. I feel like this is probably a bit more wet than what it should be, now that I'm like handling it. But I guess we'll find out. You want to pat it out to being about 1 inch thick. I don't know. It could be right. I haven't had, like, I'm used to canned biscuits. So I'm used to that texture. And so that's what I want this to be. And I feel like this is just a slightly wetter version of that. So anyway, take your biscuit cutter, which for me is a handy dandy mason jar top, and push in. And then collect your biscuit. And place on parchment paper. I wonder if this will come out okay. I don't know. We'll find out. Alright. And repeat. Hot dog. That worked out. I know with biscuit cutters you don't want to twist it. You just want to go straight down. La 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 la. Such a terrible mommy, Smokey. Oh, woe is me. Woe is you. Alright, let's try to roll this back up and lay it back out. It's so sticky! Okay. Well, that's not working. Let's add some more flour. Maybe stiffen it up a bit. It's all over the counter. That's so much to clean up. I don't want to waste this batter by washing my hands, but at the same time, I really want to wash my hands. There needs to be more flour. Alrighty, biscuits round 1, going in the oven. Oh wait. Milk. Bags. Okay. And then you take a splash of milk and you paint it on the top of the biscuits. I don't know why, but it doesn't even matter how hard you try. Keep that in mind now that the time is right to explain yourself. All right. Because in the end, it doesn't even matter. 13 minutes. 13 minutes. All right, round 2. All right, first thing I learned, more flour is better. This feels like how the dough should. Whether my dough is an inch thick, I don't know, but it feels better. So maybe you're supposed to roll it around on the flour covered counter a little bit before you start cutting it. I don't know. So round 2. Alright, so we're gonna have a little one-on-one while the first batch has 6 minutes left. Look at how nice my second batch came out to be. Like, so much nicer. Yes! That is probably how they should have looked in the first place. Second batch was the charm. So, but like with baking, and like I said at, in the sushi episode, the more practice you get, the better you are at it. I stink. This is the first time I have made biscuits. First time. And there's also a recipe on the back of the baking powder that's baking powder biscuits. And I'm like, but they're not Southern biscuits, which is what boyfriend wanted. And boyfriend isn't even back home from work in Alabama. So, like, yeah. So, anyway, things I've learned during this experience. The more flour on your counter, the better. Or whatever it is that you're using to press your dough out to. Also, not this one. I've got another one because we have like 3 of them for some reason. No, anyway, silicone spatulas are your friend. We've got a wooden one that's a spatula. And I just use that to get my dough in order, like instead of using my hands, because my hands are all sticky and filthy and not worth anything because I didn't flour them before I started touching the batter. That silicone, it did the trick, and it got everything straightened up and together so I could flour my counter again for the second batch. And the more flour, the better. So, and as for how the biscuits will come out, here's the thing, is the recipe calls for sour cream or yogurt. Plain yogurt. Coconut plain yogurt. I use soy yogurt. Alright, cool. Flavor's not going to be that much different, except I used vanilla soy yogurt. So, I feel like going off the taste of the batter, the biscuits are going to be sweet. Like vanilla, like sweet. Vanilla yogurt sweet. Like, so there shouldn't be an issue with the bitterness because I had to use so much extra baking powder over baking soda. So find different ingredients to counteract potential bitterness. Extra baking powder will potentially increase the bitterness, so you use vanilla yogurt instead of plain yogurt to counteract that bitterness and make it sweet. Let's see how they're doing. There's one giant biscuit. Well, there's 3 minutes left, so I'm gonna hit pause and I'll bring you back when it's done. So something that I've noticed when it comes to substituting things that from dairy to dairy free things is that sometimes they don't always brown like they should. This being an example. So even though the biscuits don't look done, they are done. I put a knife in the biggest one and it came out clean, so okay. So here's the top of it. Here's the bottom. You see the color on the bottom. So it's either this is just barely finished or it's done. And it's done and steamy. So They're not regular biscuits. But they're not bad. With some butter, they'd be fine. Smothered in sausage gravy, they'd be fine. But by themselves, I need to find another recipe. So, maybe in the future we'll try revisiting biscuits. Try it again. Try a different recipe. See how it comes out. But, all in all, thank you for joining me for Cooking Adventures with Katie, Episode 7, Season 2, Biscuits. So, yeah, like, subscribe, comment if you have a better biscuit recipe, or something, or a recipe that has enough substitutions available where if it calls for milk, I could just use soy milk, or if it calls for butter, I can use dairy-free butter. Shoot them to me. I'll try them because he misses biscuits, and I'm not going to eat something that he can't have. I don't want to have something he can't have in the house. So, yeah, like, subscribe, comment, send me stuff. Yeah. So long, humans, and good morrow. Happy adventures.